Good morning, Smithfield Baptist Church. So I'm out here in this morning and it's a beautiful day. This is actually Wednesday morning. You're seeing this on Thursday morning, but this is Wednesday right now. I'm looking around the woods to see if I can find a couple trees that I think I want to drop for our wood stove this year. And I figured I'd do the Gospel of Daybreak out here rather than going in and sitting down in front of my computer and typing in such a beautiful day. I'm going to do it right here for you. So, today's Gospel at Daybreak, since it is Thursday, this is the What Isn't the Parable About. We're talking about Matthew chapter 20, it's verses 1 through 16, and it's the parable of the workers in the vineyard. It's right above us in the link. You can read it before you watch this message, hopefully, so you have a handle on what the parables says. But I want to quickly take a moment and tell you what the parable is not about. You see, the parable isn't about money. Not at all. Jesus is using it as an illustration, but that's not the point we want to take away. It's not about paying people fairly for the work that they do. It's not it at all. I've heard this be used in previous workplaces that I've worked at where people have complained about not getting paid enough or other people getting paid more. And they've used this parable. They're like, you know what? Jesus says that you shouldn't worry about how much other people make for how much they work. You should worry about you. Well, some of that is true, but we also have to remember that our bosses and our coworkers, they're not God. The companies we work for, they're not God. We don't have to trust that they're doing things fairly. We don't have to trust that they're doing things right because they may not be. We trust that God is just and that God is fair. And so that if God pays you, the same person $1 that they pay someone for 8 hours as his example, that God is doing it in a fair and justful way. And we'll find out more tomorrow about that because that's what the parable is about, is how does God show his faithfulness and his justice. I just wanted to remind you guys today, especially on this beautiful day, that the parable isn't about money. It's not about whether you think you're being robbed or whether you think you shouldn't have paid too much or you paid too little. It's not about that at all. So when you read it, don't focus on the finances. Focus on the amazing work behind the scenes that God is trying to do. And don't assume that the company you work for or the business that you run or you're organized with, that they have it all together, that they have it figured out. I've worked for many companies in my life that exploited me and my efforts, and they knew that I would work later if I needed to and I wouldn't ask for anything, and they took advantage of that. And those businesses, they aren't God. They're not perfectly fair. They're not perfectly just. If you're blessed enough to work for a company that does not do that to employers, and I know we have some people that will be watching this that either work for or run companies that I believe use God-centered, faithful practices with how they treat each other, then that is such a blessing. But don't assume, especially when you turn on the news or something else and people are picketing or they're asking for fair wages like Amazon or some of these other larger companies. Amazon actually employs 1 out of every 152 people in America right now. So if employers are saying that they're struggling with working conditions in Amazon, we should probably peek up our ears because that's 1 out of every 152 people in this country is complaining about their working conditions. So don't assume businesses and companies are benevolent and that they run and they rule everything, and that Jesus is saying that if you're forced to work all day and get paid the same as much as they're willing to pay someone else who works half the time, that's fair. It's not necessarily fair because these companies, these businesses, your boss isn't God. And if you are a boss, you are not God. So always have humility when you're dealing with money. Always have humility when you're dealing with work or with finances. That's the part of this parable I think that people get wrong the most. And so that's what I wanted to highlight today. Tomorrow we'll talk about what the parable actually is about. And spoiler alert, it's about how God gifts salvation to those in all different spectrums of their life and all different times. So yeah, look forward to that on Friday. Until then, I hope you get out here and enjoy at least the sun. It's kind of chilly, but at least the sun. God bless. See you tomorrow.